Good day, world. How's it going? All right, today we're talking about Respect, a movie about Aretha Franklin, starring Jennifer Hudson, Marlon Wayans, Mary J. Blige, Audrey McDonald, who had an absolutely beautiful voice in this movie, Sky Dakota, who plays Aretha as a child, and she did an amazing job. An amazing job. Titus Burgess, let's see, Forrest Whitaker plays her father. Kimberly Scott, who played her grandmother, I want to say. I believe it was her grandmother. And a whole host of characters. I can't hit them all, but this movie was very well done. It starts off with her as a child in her hometown. I believe it is Detroit. She's brought up in a church, very churchy type of setting. Her father is a pastor, I believe, of a well received church. He throws a lot of parties at his house, which I have a lot of questions about. that I'm going to ask, and I need your input. So, at any point, if you have the answers to any of these, please go ahead. Still using the wrong hand. Please go ahead and drop that comment in there. And while you're at it, if you want to like and share, I'd be cool with that too. Go ahead and subscribe. You know, if you want to, just if you want to. Anyway, so he is he's the pastor of a church. His family he's very strict with his family. Him and his wife had divorced when Aretha and her siblings were at a very young age. And as far as the father being strict, I can kind of understand that, considering the time period. You want your children to be protected. You don't want them to, especially, you know, with everything going on with civil rights movement, and this was around the time of Dr. Martin Luther King and all that's going on there. So you want that extra grip on your children to make sure that they're okay, because everybody wants the best for their children. They just don't know how to do it all the time. So her father is very proud of Aretha and her voice, so he likes to show it off. Now, here comes some of the questions that I don't understand, or some of the stuff that I don't understand. So he's a pastor of a church, right? So I believe it's the day before they have church, and the day of, right after church, he holds these parties at his house. And we'll get to that. Anyway, so Aretha grows up. She has issues, you know, with men. She's constantly picking. I won't say constantly, but she's picking the wrong man. She has been belittled and basically told that we want to hear you sing, but nothing else you do much matters. So I can kind of understand how that would sway her mental a little bit, in thinking that, you know, you are to be seen, and you are to be, when we call upon you, we want to hear that voice. We want to hear that voice, but as far as you talking and your opinions, we don't need that. I can't even imagine what that would do to someone's psyche, or you as a person overall, to have to walk around with the knowledge that no one wants to hear you unless you are singing. So she grows up. Her sisters kind of have this jealousy. Well, I won't say jealousy. There is a jealousy there as far as how she's treated. Aretha's treated differently than her other siblings because of her voice. Her father's waking her up out in the middle of the night as a young girl during his parties. You know what? I can't wait. I got to get to it. So he's holding these parties at like 7 o'clock, or I'm sorry, 7 o'clock, like on a Saturday, and Sunday after church, right? But the people who are attending these parties, these ain't regular parties, man. They got dudes groping on each other. They got women, and I'm cool with the whole. I'm cool with the whole, you know, gay lesbian thing. I'm all right with that. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is the fact that all of this is taking place in your house. You're doing this while your children are home. You have a problem. Like, you don't. How do you don't have a problem with this? Your kids are upstairs, and then he woke Aretha up to have her come downstairs in front of all this drunkenness and smoke and people making out. And it's just like, hey, can you sing a song for the? Can you sing a song for the people? What? Come on, man. And then turn around and get ready and go to church the next day and preach the word. I don't understand that. Maybe some church people out there that can help me with that, but I don't get that at all. Anyway, so later on, I think it was during one of her father's parties, someone sneaks upstairs while Aretha's sleeping. I think she was 12 years old, and she was raped. Raped and now pregnant. And to my knowledge, I don't know if she, I don't know, they didn't show when she actually told, but I would imagine, you know, after a while, you start to show, you got to tell somebody. So I don't know what the consequences of that was, but she carried those children, she carried those kids to term, which was, I guess, I maybe it had something to do with her belief, which I understand, I guess. But so now she's got kids at 12, and again, her voice still does not matter. So now she starts to hit it big. Her sisters are still kind of jealous. She runs into a man her father knows to be no good, but she gets with him anyway. And sure enough, no good. Starts beating her up. I mean, bad too. Just mollywopping her like any chance he gets. If she doesn't agree with it, and in typical, typical fashion, he hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. You know, sometimes I be like that. But and he I believe his issue was jealousy. He loved music. He loved listening to music, dissecting it, and doing his thing. But I think when her stardom began to rise, he wanted to be thrust into that limelight with her, and it wasn't about him, it was more about her. So you see him answering questions in interviews as the news is asking her, he's answering those questions. And at some point is when I started to like the movie, is when she found her own voice. He got upset. She decided, you're not hitting me anymore. And she stood up for herself in more ways than one. She took her voice back. She said, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what you think I should do, what type of music I should make. She did it for herself. And that made me go from liking this movie to loving this movie. I don't think there's ever a situation where, number one, a man should ever put his hands on a woman. That's number one. Two, where anyone should tell you that you don't have a voice. Because you do. It doesn't matter what other people think about you. You are what is important to you. So to watch her stand up, to take back what has been taken from her in a time where it ain't that easy to do. During oppression and her father being super strict and men beating her and the jealousy of her sisters, and she had a drinking problem and people telling her what songs to sing. Can you imagine the type of strength that it must take to come through, still using the wrong hand, to come through on the other side and have made it when seemingly the entire world was against her? So to go on, I admire that. That's my whole point about that. If you are struggling with anything, or you're having problems, go ahead and remark in the comment section. Let me know what's going on. Maybe, and you know, maybe talk about it. I ain't doing nothing. So she goes on. She starts to form a bond with her sisters. Um, she, as she forms this bond with her sisters, become her backup singers, which I didn't know. Um, she's friends with Smokey Robinson. She's friends with Martin Luther King. You see her deal with his death. Um, uh, Watch her father become a little bit more, I don't know if he's understanding, but a little bit more light. Like he understands that this is his daughter, Aretha, not something, but she is my daughter. And you can see him start to accept that. And as she takes her stardom and uses it for herself finally. So I thoroughly enjoyed that part. But she did have her demons. She could never let the rape go, understandably, and she could never really explain it to anyone. And for that reason, she couldn't, she would explode sometimes. She called it her demons, but she would have these onset explosions where she would just blow up at anybody. It didn't matter who you are or how close you were to her. You was going to get it. So, I really understood that. But again, she beat that. And once she finished with her albums, you could see that, she changed as well, because her initial motivation for wanting to make music was to make hits. That was her only motivation. But having those hits, having left the church, and her family and her sisters having left the church and seeking those hits and getting them with respect, and there was like a few more. She decided that wasn't what she wanted. She was drinking. She was alone. She felt separated from everything. She had kind of lost her way in a sense. So she decided she was going to go home and just go to church and see how everything was going. And there she decided she wanted to come up with a gospel album. Now, her record label was like, gospel album? I don't know about that. But because she had found her way, she was like, well, it don't matter what you think. This is my show now. And I'm making a gospel album. And while her label wasn't on board, she did it anyway. She produced it. She sang it. She did the whole thing. And that was her highest grossing album of all time. And again, like, how many of you can say that you are so convinced that something is going to come out right, that you believe in something so emphatically that you're going to do this anyway, and it worked because it was something that you believed in? Again, man, that's tough. That's tough. Everybody else who's been doing this for a while, record label been doing this since forever, and you just walk in and you're like, you know what, I'm going to change stuff. I'm going to do this and this, and you're going to let me do it, and it's going to work out. And they're telling you no, and it's your highest grossing album all time. You just can't dismiss something like that. So props to Aretha, and I believe she passed away in 2018 after she received her medal from Barack Obama. I thought that was very impressive. She had made it. So props to her. Props to the people who made this movie. I didn't know this much about Aretha Franklin. And now I do. So bravo. And bravo to the people who were in this. The star-studded cast was awesome. So that's about it for me. You guys want to talk? Leave a comment in the comment section. Otherwise, I appreciate you being here and hanging out with me. So, we'll catch you in the next one. Later.